I used to go with my friend Kim to Diddy's parties. Kim was my best friend. We both attended the freak-offs. There were also parties on Epstein's Island, and going there used to be a lot of fun.
Oh my God, Paris Hilton is reportedly losing it. Sources say Kim Kardashian is threatening to drop those infamous Epstein tapes, and Paris? She's in absolute meltdown mode. The drama is real, and it's about to explode.
Paris used to take me with her to Epstein's parties. She was a good friend of mine, and I was also her assistant. A lot of things happened at those Epstein parties that can't really be described. Paris also took part in them, and she used to force me to. I even have videotapes.
Hold on to your seats because Paris Hilton's past is making a jaw-dropping comeback, and at the center of it all, none other than her former stylist, Kim Kardashian. Word on the street is Kim might be the one orchestrating a full-blown takedown. And Paris? She's reportedly terrified. Insiders say she's scrambling, trying to rewrite history, even denying she ever met Jeffrey Epstein. But here's where it gets chilling. Back in 2020, British journalist Christopher Mason revealed that Epstein's infamous right-hand Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly tried to recruit Paris when she was just 19. The question on everyone's lips, could this be true? And if so, why is Paris fighting so desperately to bury this story? Brace yourselves, because this scandal isn't just big, it's explosive. And the fallout could shock the world.
Something happened in my childhood.
It made me not trust anyone, not even my own family.
I don't know, it's something that's very personal and not something I like talking about.
I still have nightmares about it.
I'm in bed, and these two people come into my room and say, "Do you want this to happen the easy way or the hard way?" It's terrifying, and I relive that every night.
Alright, buckle up because the internet is on fire right now, and this might be the wildest rumor we've heard yet. The Jeffrey Epstein scandal just took a sharp turn straight into Hollywood's inner circle, and at the center of the chaos, Paris Hilton. According to online whispers, Paris is spiraling full panic mode because she believes Kim Kardashian is holding something explosive over her head, allegedly secret tapes tied to Epstein. Yes, those tapes. People claim clips are already quietly surfacing, and no, this isn't some old reality TV embarrassment. This is dark, next-level dark. The chatter paints Paris in a horrifying light, with rumors saying she was treated like a party favor in elite circles, and even more disturbing claims suggest she may have helped connect other girls to powerful men. Again, these are allegations, not proven facts, but the fact they're being whispered this loudly has people shaken. Now here's where Kim Kardashian enters the picture. Kim's name has also popped up in Epstein-related documents, and the rumor mill says she knows exactly what exists about Paris. The alleged message? Help keep my name clean or we both go down. If true, that kind of leverage would explain why Paris is reportedly unraveling. She spent years rebranding herself from reckless party girl to polished business mogul, and insiders claim that if these alleged tapes ever surfaced, it would obliterate everything she's built. To be clear, none of this has been proven, no verified tapes have been publicly confirmed. Both Paris and Kim's teams would almost certainly call these claims completely false. But the specificity of the rumors alone has people nervous, because it suggests the Epstein story may be inching closer to the A-list in a very real way. Everyone is waiting to see if this bomb actually drops. And just when you think it can't get more unhinged, it does. Because this rumor didn't come out of nowhere. Years ago, in a documentary about Epstein's survivors, a journalist claimed that when Paris was still a teenager, young, famous, and highly visible, Ghislaine Maxwell allegedly singled her out and said she'd be perfect for Epstein. The claim was that Maxwell even asked for an introduction. Paris stayed silent about it for years. But now, with power moves allegedly happening behind the scenes and threats of leaks hanging in the air, Paris is suddenly pushing back, telling industry insiders she never met Maxwell and calling the story pure clickbait. The problem is, the internet never forgets. Recently released photos from Epstein's Island, creepy bedrooms, a bizarre dentist chair, and an old landline with speed dial names have only reignited speculation, and that was just the beginning, with thousands more Epstein-related documents reportedly set to be released following new government action. A tidal wave of secrets is expected. That's why, according to the rumor mill, Paris isn't just worried about old accusations resurfacing. The real fear? That her name won't appear as someone who was targeted, but as someone who participated. That's the nightmare scenario. the line between victim and accomplice. And then there's the most devastating claim of all, the one circulating quietly in blind items and insider chatter. The allegation that Paris Hilton wasn't just adjacent to that world but a key player. That her early 2000s it-girl empire was allegedly a glossy front for something much darker. The story goes that she sought out other young, often vulnerable famous girls. Names like Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears are constantly whispered, luring them with access, fame, and glittering chaos before allegedly handing them off to powerful men. Some rumors even go further, claiming Paris allegedly offered herself as part of the deal to secure influence and favors.
These are the Diddy pictures Hollywood doesn't want you to see. Every A-list celebrity from Leonardo DiCaprio to Mariah Carey can be seen partying with the disgraced rapper at his various get-togethers dating back to 1998. Here's a shot from one of Diddy's white parties with Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton in the background. And here he is with Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore at another party in 2009. Russell Brand, Chris Brown, Lil' Kim, Nicole Richie and Tommy Lee are just a few of the other big-name guests, while another picture from Diddy's East Hampton house shows two women pouring champagne down another woman's throat in the pool.
And then the Kim Kardashian connection twists again. According to speculation, Kim wasn't just a friend or assistant, she was a student, someone who allegedly watched, learned, and absorbed the blueprint. And while Paris built the prototype, the rumor says Kim perfected it and took it further. None of this has been proven, but if even a fraction of these allegations were ever backed by evidence, it wouldn't just damage reputations, it would detonate them. And with old alliances cracking, documents flooding out, and secrets refusing to stay buried, people are wondering if Paris Hilton is finally facing the one thing no brand, lawyer, or PR team can outmaneuver: the truth. Whispers say Paris Hilton didn't just rise through Hollywood parties. She allegedly used connections, compromising situations, even blackmail to climb higher and target more powerful men. Her name in Epstein's infamous book, rumor has it, not a coincidence. It's seen as a sign she graduated into the dark elite of that shadowy network. So Paris isn't just sweating over being listed as a guest. The panic, insiders claim, comes from a far scarier possibility: being exposed as the architect, the one who allegedly taught the game to someone who then outplayed everyone. If this version of the story ever gains traction with evidence, it could recast Paris's entire life story, from bubbly A-list party girl to a central figure in a predatory system. And then there's Kim, allegedly holding tapes, allegedly watching, allegedly waiting. The protege who might have learned everything from Paris could be the one with the power to bury her. But it's the personal history, the friendship-turned-frosty rivalry that makes these professional rumors cut even deeper. This isn't just business, it's a deeply personal betrayal wrapped in survival tactics. Publicly, Kim appears calm, issuing interviews about growing apart, while Paris floods Instagram with nostalgic photos, a silent peace offering. But sources say they haven't spoken in 4 years. That's not a slow fade, it's a cold war. And the allegation that Paris was exploited at 19 shifts the lens dramatically. If true, the rumors that she later became a madam aren't just shocking, they suggest a horrifying cycle of abuse, where the victim becomes a facilitator, caught in manipulation. She may not have escaped. And the most damning twist? Rumor has it Kim studied Paris's blueprint of trauma and exploitation, not out of necessity, but as a calculated strategy to accelerate her career. She allegedly saw what broke Paris and weaponized it to climb even higher. For Paris, realizing that her former friend and protege could now threaten her using the darkest parts of her past, that's a betrayal no fame or fortune can fix. Add to that Paris's recent revelations about childhood trauma and haunting nightmares, and the stakes get even higher. This is a woman who spent decades performing perfection while privately battling profound pain. Now imagine someone who once learned from her, not just watching but mastering, holding those secrets like ammunition. Kim's reputation precedes her. She doesn't get mad, she litigates. She doesn't feud publicly, she applies pressure until the other person is silenced.
She was best known as being Paris Hilton's sidekick, but in reality, I think that girl was on a mission.
She got a taste of that drug. She wanted that power. You know that you can make $1 million in one day. What does it look like?
Ray J. Stephen Smith. These aren't just exes, they're case studies in how Kim handles threats. So if she's truly threatening Paris over alleged tapes, This isn't about a mean text, it's a potential multi-million-dollar legal ambush combined with total PR annihilation. Paris posting nostalgic throwbacks? That's not friendship, it's a white flag. A subtle public plea, see, we were sisters, don't do this. But Kim, with her track record, doesn't lose wars to sentimentality. She plays for control. So the scene is set. Paris in desperate defense mode, trying to deny, appease, and hope the storm passes. Kim in aggressive containment, controlling narratives, neutralizing threats, and looming over both of them the ultimate wild card, the US government. With new Epstein documents poised to drop, no PR team or legal powerhouse can shield them. A single flight log, a buried photo, a redacted memo could validate or destroy the swirling rumors.
Incredibly rich, incredibly famous, but this tape is rearing its head again. Yes, and it has now caused more legal strife between herself and her state partner, Ray J.
We've all seen the headlines, right? The parties, the whispers, the names that send shivers through tabloids. But this isn't just another recycled rumor. This is Paris Hilton, the queen of untouchable, the heiress who turned scandal into a brand, suddenly on the defensive, feeling the walls close in. And why now? Because the Epstein files aren't done spilling their secrets. Leaks, photos, documents, they don't just put her in the same room as Jeffrey Epstein. They hint at something far darker, something no one dared imagine. This isn't a decade-old party snapshot or some vague name drop. This is victims stepping forward, insiders breaking silence, and a legal storm brewing that might finally make her answer for what she allegedly helped cover up.
Oh, but we have a congressional act now to requiring the release, but they're going to say, you know what?
Subject to
Tom
redaction.
Hanks, it's unfair that he was mentioned
and
because he
the law
was eating
says
Skittles.
subject to redaction. Subject to redaction.
And we all know what that means. That's to protect.
That's why I'm saying you will never be satisfied with what's released.
Bro, if you wanted to get someone, you have a high-profile witness, okay? High-profile witness in the craziest trafficking conspiracy of all time, where a guy who may or may not have been an intelligence asset or an intelligence agent or whatever the he was for whatever country, this guy he's arrested for trafficking to elites, and then you put him in jail.
Oh my God.
With that guy.
The panic didn't happen overnight. It exploded just days ago when the Department of Justice dropped its latest tranche of Epstein-related files. Thousands of pages, hundreds of photos, and enough jaw-dropping details to send Hilton's team scrambling like never before. Among the newly surfaced images are a series of undated shots from Epstein's properties, some showing Hilton in situations that go far beyond casual socializing. But the real shocker, the testimonies. Sources close to the investigations reveal that multiple victims are now pointing to Hilton, not as a bystander, not as a mere guest, but as someone allegedly facilitating introductions. Young women brought into Epstein's circle, with Hilton reportedly present during encounters that later turned criminal. One former Epstein insider, speaking under the cloak of anonymity, claimed Hilton's name had been shielded for years through a mix of legal threats and financial payoffs to potential whistleblowers. Now, with the FBI reportedly assembling a separate dossier on her connections, the question isn't just what she knew, it's what she actively did. Hilton's carefully crafted response? A staged interview with The Times earlier this year, where she brushed off any association with Ghislaine Maxwell, even as a 2000 photo clearly shows her alongside Maxwell and Donald Trump at a New York fashion event. The walls are closing in, and suddenly untouchable isn't untouchable anymore.
The Justice Department has finally released some of the highly anticipated Epstein files. More than 300,000 pages of documents related to the late convicted offender were made public today. They include photos, flight logs, grand jury testimony, and a lot of heavy redactions.
I don't even remember ever meeting her, Hilton said, a line that now reads like a carefully scripted denial, especially in light of the mounting evidence. But the cracks in that story are widening fast. Christopher Mason, the composer who first went public in the 2020 docuseries Surviving Jeffrey Epstein, didn't just claim that Maxwell had Hilton in her sights as perfect for Jeffrey. He described a scene where Maxwell actively sought her out, calling Hilton by name. Hilton may have dismissed it as clickbait, but the timing is impossible to ignore. That alleged interaction would have happened in the late 90s or early 2000s, right as Epstein's operations were ramping up, right when Hilton, a rising star in the party world, was rubbing shoulders with the same elite circles that later became infamous. And then there's the money. Media insiders have long whispered about Hilton's aggressive legal maneuvers to quash any stories linking her to Epstein, a strategy that kept her name off the radar for years. But now, with new documents and testimonies surfacing, the veil of untouchability is starting to lift. Two journalists, working on entirely unrelated exposés, say they were approached by Hilton's representatives in 2021 and 2023 with jaw-dropping offers, five-figure sums for exclusive access to her ventures, on one condition: drop any mention of Epstein from their reporting. One freelancer, who had been digging into flight logs from Epstein's private jet, recalls the veiled threat that came with the offer: "If I didn't play ball, I'd never get another interview with anyone in her network again." That isn't just reputation protection, that's someone desperate to keep skeletons buried. But the old tactics, silencing, deflecting, outspending, aren't enough anymore. The Epstein files are being pried open under congressional mandate, and the cracks are widening. The turning point? Last Friday, when the DOJ released a 1996 FBI complaint from an artist accusing Epstein of stealing photos of her underage sisters, photos he allegedly intended to sell. The document, heavily redacted but confirmed by the victim's lawyer to belong to Maria Farmer, proves one chilling truth: law enforcement knew about Epstein's predatory behavior years before his first arrest. And now, with the walls closing in, Hilton's carefully curated untouchable image is facing scrutiny it may never escape.
We've seen dozens of new photos we haven't seen before of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with very high-profile people, celebrities, people like Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson, like you showed, also like British royalty and actors. All of that we sort of knew was happening. I want to highlight specifically two for the public interest, and that is President Clinton and President Trump.
And this is where Hilton's name crashes back into the story. Maria Farmer's sister Annie has spoken publicly about being abused by Epstein and Maxwell when she was just 16. But in private conversations with victim advocates, she allegedly named Hilton, not as a bystander, not as a victim, but as someone present at gatherings where young women were groomed. That distinction is everything. If Hilton wasn't just another face in the background, if she was part of the machinery that kept Epstein's operations running, then her legal exposure isn't just about scandal or social fallout. It could be about conspiracy. Timing, of course, matters. Last month, the House Oversight Committee released Epstein's emails, including a chilling exchange where he claimed Trump knew about the girls, a revelation that sent shockwaves through political circles. Buried in that same tranche were references to other useful connections, people who could smooth things over when questions arose. Hilton's name doesn't appear in those emails yet.
Again, there was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling agency.
Properties, documents that could finally show how often Hilton was there and under what circumstances. And then there's the infamous birthday book. The scrapbook Epstein received for his 50th birthday, packed with messages from powerful friends, included a sketch of a woman's torso signed by Trump. According to 3 people who've seen the full version, Hilton's note read, "To the king of fun, always a wild time." Suddenly, that casual-sounding phrase takes on a whole new weight when viewed through the lens of the allegations swirling today. Meanwhile, Hilton's legal team has been unusually active, moving quickly to try to contain the fallout before the next round of revelations drops.
And Stephanie Ramos joining us live. And Stephanie, there have also been more cases filed in court with those accusers attempting to go after potential co-conspirators.
That's exactly right, Whit. 2 more women are suing Epstein's estate. They say they were recruited by an unnamed Epstein employee. Now, this is in addition to the lawsuit filed against Epstein's longtime friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, who is also accused of recruiting for him. Maxwell denies any wrongdoing,
claiming that the latest Epstein leaks amount to prejudicial publicity that could sway juries against her. It's a defensive move that screams they're bracing for more revelations to come. And the FBI's reported interest? This isn't tabloid gossip, it's serious. 2 agents who worked on the Epstein case, speaking off the record, confirmed that Hilton's name has come up in at least 3 victim interviews conducted since 2023. Interviews where women described her as more than a guest. One agent didn't mince words. She wasn't just at the parties, she was part of the pitch. The implication is chilling. Hilton's role may have been to normalize Epstein's behavior, to make his advances seem like just another perk of the high life experience. If that's true, the stakes aren't just civil, they're criminal. Aiding and abetting? Accomplice-level exposure. Meanwhile, the PR offensive is already in full swing. Hilton's team flooded social media with throwback shots of her charity work, a transparent attempt to rewrite the narrative while the storm gathers.
Apparently not everything. We've got indications from the Department of Justice that there are things that are going to be withheld, at least, or handed out at a later date. Now, the law in this case that was passed by Congress and signed by President Trump required that all the Epstein files be released by midnight tonight, Friday, December 19th.
But the internet isn't buying it. Hashtags like #DollarParingsDue and #HiltonFiles have been trending nonstop for 48 hours, with users dissecting every old interview, every red carpet moment, every cryptic Instagram post for hidden clues. Then there's the money trail. Financial records obtained by the Wall Street Journal in 2022 revealed that Hilton's former business manager, a man with ties to Epstein's financial network, funneled six-figure sums through shell companies in the early 2000s. The payments were labeled as consulting fees, but the timing lines up exactly with the peak of Epstein's recruitment operations. Coincidence? Maybe, but in the court of public opinion and increasingly in the eyes of investigators, that's a risk Hilton can't afford to take. What happens next could hinge on the next document drop. Congress has demanded the full, unredacted Epstein files by the end of the year, and even the White House, despite Trump's earlier resistance, is now under mounting pressure to comply. The storm isn't just coming, it's gathering force.
So first, I think we just have to say, and you set it up well, there are two real storylines here. One is what is in these files that we can see and that we can actually learn. We're going to get on that first. There's also the story about what is not in these files or what is heavily redacted, because that is also sparking a nerve.
If the remaining pages contain even a single email, a flight manifest, or a witness statement directly linking Hilton to Epstein's operations, the dominoes could fall faster than anyone expects. Victims who stayed silent out of fear may finally feel safe to come forward. Journalists sitting on explosive tips could publish, and the FBI, which has reportedly been quietly building a case for months, might shift from observation to action. Hilton's team knows the stakes. That's why the past week has been a whirlwind of private settlements with former associates, renewed non-disclosure agreements, and the quiet addition of at least one high-profile lawyer notorious for defending figures in misconduct cases. But here's the thing about scandals of this magnitude. Once the dam breaks, no amount of money or influence can stop the flood. And right now, the cracks are undeniable. A source close to the House Oversight Committee tells us the next batch of files, expected within days, includes a series of photos from Epstein's Little St. James Island, images that allegedly show Hilton in settings far beyond mere social visits.
Maxwell interview is and never was part of the Epstein files. She was sentenced in 2025. This was an interview by Trump's lawyer to protect Trump from the fallout about the Epstein files. What this really is nothing but a sketchy PR stunt by the Department of Justice. And we have seen this movie before. The Maxwell interview is to the Epstein files what the Barr letter was to the Mueller investigation.
An insider, this one with ties to the Virgin Islands Attorney General's office, claims that multiple women have now come forward with stories of Hilton acting as a social bridge, introducing them to Epstein under the guise of modeling opportunities or exclusive parties. If even one of those accounts is substantiated, if just a single woman is willing to go on the record, the story changes forever. It's no longer about old rumors or casual associations. This is about evidence, and evidence is what turns scandals into indictments. We are teetering on that precipice now. The leaks are accelerating. Victims are finding their voices, and Paris Hilton, the woman who once dismissed Epstein questions as mere clickbait, is suddenly fighting for her future in a way she never imagined.
Some breaking news right now. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City. Epstein was facing trafficking charges.
The real question isn't just what she knew, it's what she did with that knowledge and how far she's willing to go to keep it buried. Because if the past week has made anything painfully clear, it's this. The truth about Jeffrey Epstein's world was never just about one man. It was about the enablers. The protectors, the people who looked the other way, and the people who allegedly helped him hunt. As the layers around Paris Hilton's ties to Epstein are peeled back, it's becoming harder to dismiss this as a single woman caught in the wrong orbit. What's emerging instead is a picture of a system, a carefully maintained web of power players who ensured Epstein's darkest behavior could continue unchecked for decades. And if the latest leaks are pointing us anywhere, it's toward an uncomfortable possibility. Hilton may not have just existed within that system, she may have helped design it. Because Epstein didn't operate in a vacuum. He relied on facilitators, people who smoothed the path, normalized the environment, and used their fame, influence, or silence to make the unthinkable feel ordinary. And Hilton had all three. Her name wasn't just floating on the edges of Epstein's world, it was woven into its fabric. So now the question evolves. It's no longer just about her actions, it's about who else was part of the machine that kept everything running. And more importantly, who is still protecting it? And that's where we have to follow the money. Because while Hilton's public image has always been polished in glamour and excess, the financial trails tell a far darker, far more calculated story.
I want to know how Epstein made the money that he did. I want to know what the transactions are he was involved in. And that should all be something that the Treasury Department, the FBI can get access to, because in the meantime, what we're left with is Ghislaine Maxwell effectively downplaying this whole thing. Yeah, he was a he hid it from everybody. Nobody else was involved. There's no proof of anything else. There's no blackmail. There's no foreign intelligence tie.
In 2021, a leaked document from a defamation case that was quietly settled peeled back another layer of the story, and it wasn't pretty. The filing revealed that Hilton's former business manager, a man with deep ties to Epstein's financial web, had funneled nearly $700,000 through a maze of shell companies between 2002 and 2005. Officially, the payments were labeled as consulting fees. Unofficially, the timing raises red flags no one can ignore. That period just happens to line up with the height of Epstein's recruitment machine, when his private jet was flying to the Caribbean almost weekly, and when Hilton herself was a fixture at the same elite gatherings where young women were allegedly groomed. Coincidence? Maybe. But things get a lot murkier when you factor in that two of those shell companies were registered to the same address as a known Epstein front, an office in the US, Virgin Islands reportedly used to launder funds. And then there's the real estate. Property records show that in 2004, Hilton briefly co-signed a lease for a Manhattan townhouse, later linked to Epstein's network. The lease sat under a limited liability company, but three sources familiar with the arrangement say the townhouse wasn't just another luxury property. It was used for private gatherings, the kind that never made it into the society pages. But the financial connections are only the beginning. Hilton's real power wasn't just money, it was narrative control, and she didn't wield it alone. Over the years, her team has been accused of running a playbook eerily similar to Epstein's own PR strategy: silence critics, bury stories, and if all else fails, drown everything in legal threats. Take the Daily Beast in 2019. The outlet was reportedly preparing a deep dive into Hilton's connections to Epstein when, according to two editors involved, they received a call from Hilton's legal team. The message was blunt: publish the piece and face a defamation lawsuit that could bankrupt the outlet. The article was killed. Then there are the non-disclosure agreements. Over the past decade, Hilton's company has allegedly paid more than $2 million in settlements to at least 6 former employees or associates, individuals who, according to industry insiders, had information tied to her time in Epstein's orbit. One NDA signed in 2018 reportedly included a clause explicitly barring the recipient from discussing any interactions with Jeffrey Epstein or his associates. That's not coincidence, that's a pattern, and it mirrors the exact tactics Epstein himself used to keep people quiet for years. Of course, Paris Hilton isn't the only name in Epstein's black book, but the deeper this goes, the harder it becomes to ignore how deeply woven her story may be into his.
Layers upon layers. It's those Russian nesting dolls, and you open it, and there's another one in there, and you open, there's another one in there.
Corruptions at all time, bro. The Epstein files.
I heard there's no files. I heard it's a hoax. And then all of a sudden, he's going to release the files. Well, I thought there was no files.
Man,
he wants an investigation now.
The newly released files have dragged a who's who of the global elite back into the spotlight: Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Bill Gates, even the late Michael Jackson. But what sets Hilton apart is how her story intersects with theirs at the most uncomfortable, most damning moments. Take that infamous 2000 photo of Hilton standing alongside Ghislaine Maxwell and Trump at the Ann John fashion show. That wasn't just a random society snapshot frozen in time. It was taken right as Epstein's operation was expanding, when Maxwell was allegedly deep into recruitment mode, and when Trump, despite later distancing himself, was still firmly embedded in Epstein's social orbit. And Hilton, she wasn't on the sidelines, she was right there in the center of it all. But the connections don't end with a photograph. Flight logs obtained by the Miami Herald in 2021 show Hilton took at least 3 trips aboard Epstein's private jet between 2001 and 2003. One of those flights, a trip to Little St. James, Epstein's infamous private island in the summer of 2002. The logs don't list the other passengers, but what we do know is chilling. During that same period, at least 4 women have since come forward alleging they were trafficked to the island. So again, the question surfaces: coincidence? Or is it possible that Hilton's presence wasn't just social but strategic? And then there's the birthday book. The scrapbook gifted to Epstein on his 50th birthday, stuffed with handwritten notes and drawings from his most powerful friends, has become one of the most talked about artifacts in the entire saga. A symbol not just of access but of intimacy, of who felt close enough to joke, flirt, and celebrate a man whose crimes were already quietly known in certain circles. And as more pages surface, that book and the names connected to it may prove to be one of the most explosive pieces of evidence yet.